The Demise of Bretton Woods, 1971 to 1973. The system in Bretton Woods worked well until the late 1960s. The trade balance of the USA became highly negative, and a very large amount of US dollar was held outside the USA. It was more than the total gold holdings of the USA. On 15th of August 1971, President Nixon suspended the system of convertibility of gold and dollars and decided for a floating exchange rate system. And by March 1973, the major currencies began to float against each other, in which values being determined by supply and demand in the foreign exchange market. Exchange rate regime, 1973 to 1985. In the wake of the collapse of the Bretton Woods exchange rate system, the IMF appointed a committee of 20 that suggested for various options for exchange rate arrangement. Those suggestions were approved at Jamaica during February 1976 and were formally incorporated into the text of the Second Amendment to the Articles of Agreement that came into force from 1978 of April. Different types of exchange rate regime. First, floating exchange rate regimes. A country's currency is set by the foreign exchange market through supply and demand for that particular currency relative to other currencies. In a floating exchange rate system, the value of the currency is affected by everyday markets for supply and demand. Therefore, trade and capital flows play a big role in determining the currency's value. Second, independent floating system. Independent floating system does not involve intervention and so termed as clean floating. The purpose of intervention is simply to moderate the exchange rate and to prevent undue fluctuation, but no attempt is undertaken to achieve or maintain a particular rate. Third, managed floating system. Managed floating system is also known as dirty floating. It involves direct and indirect intervention by monetary authorities of the country to stabilize the exchange rate. There are two types of intervention under the managed floating system: